What's up, guys? Tera Roberts here with your DFS Bargains for week 11. Before we get started, be sure to like this video and subscribe to Fantasy Alarm. Now, this is a very special week. It is a special week because I am giving you three budget-friendly options at quarterback. First up, let's talk about the flashy option, Cam Newton, of course. All signs indicate that Cam will be starting this week, and while our sample size from last week was extremely small, it was the exact sample that we needed to see. Rushing quarterbacks are where we want to be, and that is exactly what Cam showcased last week. He's one of the cheapest viable options at quarterback right now. The second option is Justin Fields. He's got that same advantage that we just talked about with Cam Newton, rushing upside. In Chicago's Week 8 game against San Francisco, Fields was a top 10 quarterback despite the fact that he only threw for 175 yards and 1 touchdown. But because he had the added bonus of 103 yards on the ground and 1 rushing touchdown, he was a top 10 quarterback. The matchup this week against Baltimore is favorable, so I love him as a low-end option. Another quarterback, our final quarterback that I am feeling on this slate is Tua Tagovailoa. And this one is super quick. He's playing the Jets. That is the exclusive reason. It is the Jets defense that is dead last in DVOA against the pass. The Jets have been lit up over and over and over again. And I don't expect that to change. Target this game as much as humanly possible. Moving on to running backs, I had to raise my threshold this week for what qualifies as a bargain running back because the DFS sites are onto us. They're not letting us give away with the cheap options of Darnell Johnson and Ramondre Stevensons of the world. Their prices have been raised, so rather than telling you to play a cheap guy like Adrian Peterson or David Johnson, who really isn't going to provide you much upside, or to grab a low-price running back that has a really tough matchup, we're going to raise the bar a little bit and give a little bit higher value to these running backs. And we're going to raise it up to Myles Gaskin. You know that Jets defense that we were just talking about, that Jets defense that is dead last in DVOA against the pass? Well, they're not exactly dead last in DVOA against the run, just 31st. Jonathan Taylor had 172 yards on the ground against them 2 weeks, and Nyheim Hines added 74. This game could easily be one of Gaskin's most productive games on the year, and at his pricing, it won't take much for him to pay off. I've also got some contingency running backs for you as well. These are guys to play if injuries linger for their starting running backs. Jeff Wilson returned to IR, and his performance last week was not spectacular, going for 28 yards for 10 carries, while Elijah Mitchell had 27 carries for 91 yards. But Mitchell broke his finger, and he's at risk of missing this game. We know that Kyle Shanahan is not exactly fond of Trey Sermon, and if Mitchell can't go, it's likely Jeff Wilson's backfield. Mark Ingram is another great option if Alvin Kamara is out again. Last week, Ingram had 14 carries for 47 yards, 1 touchdown, and 4 receptions for 61 yards. I will take that any day of the week. And the matchup against Philadelphia is pretty good too, so keep an eye out on injury reports and include him if Kamara can't go. Moving on to wide receivers, Jamal Agnew has a habit of making it onto my videos, and what do you know? He is here again. I just can't quit him, and neither can Urban Meyer. Jamal Agnew and Dan Arnold have become focal points within this Jags offense. They're getting Agnew the ball by any means necessary. Last week, he had 5 targets and failed to catch a single one of them, but he still had a fantastic fantasy day with 79 yards on the ground and 1 touchdown. Somehow, some way, he's going to get you those points. Another great option that has stayed reasonable in pricing is Rashad Bateman. He's been very consistent and last week caught 6 of his 8 targets for 80 yards. It's just a matter of time before he finds the end zone, and against the Chicago Bears defense that has been a little bit shaky recently, he could definitely find the end zone for the first time this season. And at tight end, we talked about Justin Fields earlier, so why not go with his young and talented tight end, Jimmy Graham? But just kidding, Cole Kmet. Prior to Chicago's bye week, Kmet caught 6 of his season-high 8 targets for 87 yards. His target share has been on the rise over the past 3 weeks, and the matchup against Baltimore is fantastic. Putting aside last week's weird game for Mike Gesicki, the Ravens have been giving up one of the highest averages of fantasy points per game allowed to tight ends. It could be another big week for Kmet. And that wraps things up for this week's DFS Bargains. Be sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel, and come back next week for another round of DFS Bargains.